The first time Captain Elias Rains saw her, he thought he was dreaming. The chamber shimmered with soft lilac light, walls breathing like living glass, and at its center stood Princess Aelira of the Valthi Dominion. Her presence was otherworldly. Silver threads wove through her pale blue hair, and her eyes, vast pools of violet, held the depth of an entire galaxy. Yet when she turned toward him, there was something painfully human in her gaze, a quiet loneliness that didn't belong to an interstellar air. Elias straightened his posture. Captain Elias Rains, representing Earth Command, here for diplomatic security. Her lips curved slightly. A human, protecting me? Her voice was melodic like water caressing stone. How fascinating. The translator implant in his ear softened the alien tones, but even without it, he would have understood her meaning. She was teasing him, testing him. Protocol demands it, Your Highness, he replied evenly. I'm not here to entertain fascination. She hummed, stepping closer, far too close. And yet, you are already fascinating to me. Her scent was like rain on metal. Her gaze lingered longer than comfort allowed. Elias swallowed hard and turned away, focusing on the tactical interface glowing on his wristband. With respect, Princess, fascination doesn't stop plasma fire. Her laughter chimed soft and echoing. Neither does fear, human. That night in his quarters aboard the Valthi flagship Elysian, Elias couldn't sleep. He'd fought in 3 planetary sieges, seen men and machines tear apart empires, but none of that unsettled him like her voice whispering through his mind hours later. Why do you hide your thoughts from me, human? He sat up sharply. Is this telepathy? He muttered. Great. No harm meant. Her tone was almost gentle. You think too loud. You carry pain like armor. Elias sighed, leaning back against the cool alloy wall. You shouldn't be in my head, Princess. Then perhaps you shouldn't be in my presence. There was no anger in her words, and just sadness. A weight beneath her regal calm. The next morning, he escorted her through the Elysian's observation corridor, where distant nebulae painted the void with color. The princess stopped by the glass, watching the swirl of violet dust. Do humans ever feel small? She asked softly. When they look at something this endless? Elias followed her gaze. Every time, but we keep going anyway. That's what we do. She turned her eyes to him, searching, measuring. That's why the council fears your kind. Fears? He repeated. Yes. Her voice fell to a whisper. Because humans are fragile, yet you never stop moving forward. You break and then you rise again. You don't know when to give up. There was admiration there, and something else. A quiet ache. That night her voice came again, softer than before. You remind me of a story from my childhood, human. He hesitated, replying in thought now. A strange, intimate thing. What story? Of a starlit wanderer who tried to reach the sun. He burned. But the light remembered him. Elias smiled faintly. And what happened to the princess in the story? Her pause stretched like silence before dawn. She waited for someone who would not burn. The whisper faded, leaving him with only the hum of the ship and the echo of her words pulsing through his chest. For the first time since his deployment, Elias realized something unsettling. The mission wasn't just about guarding an alien princess. It was about guarding his own heart. The storm began 2 nights after the explosion. The Elysian drifted near the ruined border moon of Kelthra, its silver hull scarred from debris and plasma fire. Within the quiet of the medbay, only 2 heartbeats pulsed, one human, one Valthi. Elias stirred on the cot, pain blooming along his side. The smell of antiseptic and ozone filled his lungs. His armor lay in a shattered heap beside the bed, and near the dim light Princess Aelira stood, motionless, her robe torn, streaked with silver blood. You shouldn't be standing, he murmured weakly. Her gaze flicked toward him. And you shouldn't be breathing. He tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough. Guess we both broke a few rules. She turned fully, and for the first time the veil of regal composure was gone. Her eyes glistened, not just from tears, but something far deeper. Guilt. I told them to retreat, she whispered, but the fleet captain wanted to test the human's courage. He sent you into that corridor knowing it would collapse. Elias blinked, the words cutting through him sharper than pain. You knew? I tried to stop him. Her voice trembled, and then steadied again, cold as steel. When the explosion came, I felt your mind vanish. I thought... She looked down at her hands. I thought I had killed you. He watched her struggle, every word cracking against the quiet. Princess. No. She stepped closer, and her voice dropped to a whisper that ached against the air. Don't call me that, not now. Not when I nearly lost the only one who looks at me like I'm more than a title. Elias froze. Her eyes met his, luminous and bare. He could have said something, anything, but silence wrapped them both like gravity. Finally, he exhaled. You saved me. That's what matters. Her lips parted, not in relief, but in disbelief. You always say that. You always find something worth saving even when it's you who's bleeding. That's just human nature, she repeated, voice fading into something almost fragile. And what about me, Elias? What is my nature to you? Her question pierced him more deeply than the shrapnel had. He looked away because he didn't have an answer. Not one he was ready to face. She didn't move. Do you fear me, human? No. Do you pity me? Never. Then, her voice quivered, a whisper trembling against his heartbeat. Why not me, human? Elias froze. The words hung in the air, raw, pleading, unguarded. Why? She continued softly. Can you care so deeply for a species that tore its own world apart, but not for someone who only wants to understand it? He swallowed hard. Because if I cared too much, he said quietly, I might never go home. Her breath caught, and for a heartbeat the universe outside their window seemed to pause. The nebula beyond glowed faintly, reflecting in her eyes, 2 galaxies trembling with light. When she finally spoke, her tone was soft but resolute. Then maybe home isn't always where you were born. Maybe it's who stays when everyone else leaves. She turned away before he could reply, silver strands of hair catching the sterile light. Elias watched her leave the medbay in silence, her footsteps fading like a dream he wasn't ready to wake from. Outside, the wounded ship drifted through a sea of starlight, and somewhere between 2 broken hearts and 2 fragile worlds, something unseen began to change, a thread pulling tighter, weaving human warmth into alien sorrow. He didn't know what it meant yet, but deep down Elias understood one thing. Elira's question would haunt him longer than any wound. Why not me, human? The silence after the rescue was heavier than any explosion. 3 days had passed since Elias had pulled Princess Elira from the burning wreckage of the Vaelti shuttle. 3 days since his hands, calloused, trembling, human, had carried her through a storm of fire and metal. Now, inside the Elysian's recovery chamber, she sat beneath a glass dome that shimmered with faint blue light, her breathing slow but steady. Elias watched through the observation window, exhaustion etched across his face. Every minute she slept, he felt the ache of something nameless growing inside him, something he had no right to feel. She's stabilizing, said the ship's medic, a soft-spoken Vaelti named Tareth. But her neural link was disturbed. She keeps calling for you, Captain. Elias blinked. For me? Tareth nodded slowly. She whispers your name as if it anchors her. I've never seen that kind of attachment in a royal Vaelti. Elias exhaled deeply, staring at the faint outline of Elira's form through the glass. Anchors, he thought. That's what humans are, even when they're sinking. When she finally awoke, her first word was a whisper. Elias. He was there within seconds, the soft hum of the door fading behind him. Her eyes fluttered open, still glowing faintly violet, but dimmer now like stars seen through tears. You came, she murmured. Always, he said quietly. You didn't think I'd let you go alone, did you? A faint, fragile smile touched her lips. Humans and their promises, she whispered. You make them so easily, and yet they sound like prayers. Elias sat beside her bed, unsure whether to laugh or bow his head. Maybe that's because we've learned to keep them even when no one listens. Her gaze softened. That's what I envy about your kind. Envy? He repeated. Yes. She turned her face toward the dome's glass ceiling, watching the slow drift of a nebula beyond. You feel everything. Love, pain, fear. And still you call it strength. We Vaelti have spent centuries learning to suppress what you embrace. Her voice trembled slightly. And yet, when you looked at me during the explosion, when I thought we would die, I saw no fear. Just peace. He swallowed, unsure how to respond. I wasn't thinking, he said at last. Just acting. That's what makes you dangerous. She smiled faintly. You don't think. You believe. Elias leaned back in his chair, feeling her words linger like the faint hum of the engines. And what do you believe, Princess? Her eyes drifted to him, luminous, steady, searching. I believe that if one human can make me question everything I was taught, then maybe your kind isn't what my people fear. Maybe you're what they've been missing. He froze. That's a dangerous thing to say, especially for someone like you. I don't care. Her tone was soft but final, the kind that left no room for duty or politics. Then she whispered, almost to herself, you risked your life for me. Not for orders, not for diplomacy, for me. And yet you keep pretending that it means nothing. Elias clenched his jaw. Because it can't mean something. Not between us. Elira's eyes shimmered, a storm of emotion barely held together. Then tell me, human, if it means nothing, why does it hurt so much to hear you say that? He couldn't answer. The silence between them was louder than any siren. Finally, she reached out, her hand trembling slightly as her fingers hovered above his. Your warmth, she whispered, feels like sunlight, and I don't know if I can live without it anymore. Elias didn't move. Couldn't. In the void outside, twin stars passed close. 2 orbits that would never touch, yet forever burn in the same sky. And deep within that endless night, the question she'd once whispered returned, haunting and beautiful. Why not me, human? The call came at dawn. If dawn could exist aboard a ship drifting between suns. Elira had just begun to regain her strength when the crimson summons light ignited across her chamber walls. The Vialti Council was calling. Elias stood beside, her expression unreadable as the holographic sigil burned in the air. They're demanding an audience, he said quietly. They know. Elira's eyes, once calm, flickered with unease. About what? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The silence between them said it all. When the communication chamber opened, 6 figures appeared as towering projections. The Vialti High Council, draped in silver robes that shimmered like liquid glass. Their faces were unreadable masks of ancient intellect. Princess Elira, the lead counselor's voice resonated, cold and measured. You were instructed to maintain neutrality with the human envoy. Instead, reports suggest excessive familiarity. Elias stiffened. With respect, she was nearly killed. I did my duty. Human. The counselor cut sharply. You will not speak unless addressed. Elira took a step forward. Her voice was steady, regal, commanding. But there was something fierce beneath it. Do not chastise him. He saved me when your fleet abandoned me to die. The council's holographic lights dimmed slightly, as if their composure had cracked. We are not here to debate heroism, another said. We are here because you shielded him from inquiry. You refused to allow our telepaths access to his memories after the explosion. He's earned his privacy, Elira replied. Privacy, the lead voice repeated. Or affection? The question fell like a blade through the air. Elias's breath caught. Elira did not flinch. If compassion is a crime, then yes, I am guilty. The chamber went still. Even the hum of the ship seemed to fade. The counselor leaned closer in holographic form. You risk everything. Your title, your line, your world. For a human soldier who cannot even comprehend your lifespan. He will age and wither before you've finished one Vialti decade. Elira's eyes flickered, but she held her ground. Then I will cherish every mortal moment he gives me. Elias turned toward her, his throat tight, heart caught between awe and terror. The lead counselor spoke again, voice colder now. You disgrace your lineage. Return to Vaelthar Prime immediately. The human will be reassigned. Far from you. No. Her voice cracked, breaking through the static of the chamber. You cannot. This discussion is over, they said, and the projections dissolved into ash and light. The silence that followed was unbearable. Elira turned to Elias, her expression torn between fury and heartbreak. They'll separate us, she whispered. They'll erase your memory if they have to. Elias reached out, this time not as a soldier but as someone who refused to let go. Then I'll fight them. Her lips trembled. You can't fight an empire. He smiled faintly. Watch me. She closed her eyes, and for a heartbeat she allowed herself to rest her forehead against his chest. His armor was cold, but beneath it beat the one thing the Vaelthi feared most, a human heart that never yielded. You make me believe, she whispered, that the stars themselves envy your defiance. And you, he murmured, make me forget where I end and the universe begins. When she pulled away, tears shimmered like glass on her cheeks. They'll come for you tonight. I know. Then promise me, Elias, if you're taken, don't resist. He looked at her long and hard, then smiled sadly. I can't promise that. She laughed weakly, the sound breaking into a sob. You impossible human. Outside, alarms flickered. The council's ships were already closing in. And deep, within her heart, Elira made a vow no one would ever hear. If they take him, I will burn the skies of Vaelthar to bring him back. The knock on Elias's door came just before midnight. 3 metallic taps, precise, official, cold. He already knew what it meant. When the door slid open, 4 Vaelthi guards entered, their armor gleaming like frost under the ship's sterile lights. Behind them stood Tareth, the medic, his face pale, conflicted. Captain Elias Rains, the lead guard, intoned. By decree of the Vaelthi Council, you are hereby placed under detainment pending interrogation and memory extraction. Elias's jaw tightened. Memory extraction? That's not interrogation. That's erasure. Tareth's voice shook. I tried to protest, but it's all right, Elias said, cutting him off. I knew this was coming. He didn't resist when they shackled his wrists with energy cuffs, though his pulse pounded like thunder beneath calm eyes. But just as they turned toward the corridor, a soft voice echoed through the chamber. Release him. The guards froze. Elira stood in the doorway, cloaked in silver and shadow, her royal crest faintly burning on her collar. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes blazed with a fury that silenced even soldiers. This man is under my personal protection, she declared. With respect, Your Highness, one guard stammered. Our orders come from the council directly. Then I overrule them, she snapped. Princess, Tareth whispered, horrified. That would be treason. I know. The word fell like a blade, deliberate, final, unshakable. Elias looked at her, truly looked, and for the first time saw not the fragile alien he'd saved, but a ruler ready to burn her own throne for something she didn't yet understand. Elira, he said quietly, don't do this. They'll destroy you. Her eyes softened at the sound of his voice. Then let them. At least I'll be destroyed for something I chose. The guards hesitated. One moved to restrain her, and in a flash of movement she activated her neural link. A burst of silver light pulsed outward, shorting every device in the room. The lights flickered, alarms screamed, and in the chaos, Elias felt the cuffs release. Go, she commanded. There's an escape pod docked in the lower bay. It's unregistered. Take it before they override the systems. He stood motionless, heart tearing itself apart. I can't leave you. You must, she said firmly. The council wants your mind, not your life. If you stay, they'll take both. Her voice broke for the first time. Please, Elias, let me do this one thing right. He took a step forward. Then come with me. She smiled faintly, a heartbreak hidden beneath serenity. My people would hunt you to the edges of the void if I did. You wouldn't last a day. Then I'll take that day. Her lips parted, trembling between defiance and despair. You foolish, beautiful human. Before he could respond, the guards began to recover, raising their weapons. Elira turned, lifting her hand. Energy surged from her palm, creating a barrier of pure light. Go, she cried again, her voice breaking into a raw, desperate plea. Elias hesitated one last second, then with a silent nod, sprinted toward the bay. As the bulkhead doors slammed behind him, Elira collapsed to her knees, the glow of her barrier fading. The guards advanced, but none dared touch her. The light around her had changed, fierce, dangerous, sovereign. "Take me to the council," she said through clenched teeth. "If they want judgment, they'll have it from my own lips." And, as the ship's alarms blared through the corridors, Elias's escape pod launched silently into the void, a single streak of light vanishing into endless night. Inside, he pressed a trembling hand to the cold glass window, whispering words only the stars could hear. "I'll come back for you." The great hall of the Vialti Council was vast, a cathedral of glass and living stone suspended above the ocean clouds of Vialtar Prime. Thousands of energy veins pulsed beneath the transparent floor, flowing like liquid lightning beneath Elira's bare feet. She stood alone in the center of the chamber, her silver robes torn, her crown removed. Her voice when it came what was soft but steady. "You called me here to confess," she said. "Then listen." The council sat in a half-circle above her, 6 radiant figures cloaked in authority. "You stand accused," intoned the lead counselor, "of aiding a human fugitive, violating interspecies protocol, and obstructing the council's decree. Do you deny it?" Elira lifted her chin. "No." Gasps rippled through the gallery. But she continued before they could silence her. "I do not deny saving Captain Elias Rains. I do not deny shielding him from your mind scorchers, and I do not deny that I have come to feel what you would call love." The word love fell like a thunderclap. Even the light around the council dimmed. "Blasphemy," whispered one elder. "Contamination," said another. But the eldest counselor raised a hand. "And yet—" "Truth," he murmured. "Continue." Elira's gaze lifted to the vaulted ceiling where auroras of starlight shimmered, 1,000 galaxies watching. "When I met the human," she said, "I thought him fragile, loud, reckless. But he looked at the universe the way our ancestors once did, with wonder, not ownership. He fought not to conquer, but to protect." Her voice trembled now, a storm rising beneath her calm. "And when I fell, he carried me through fire without hesitation. Not because he sought reward or alliance, but because it was right. That is humanity's power, the one thing we Valthi have forgotten. You risked the dominion for emotion," a counselor spat. "I risked nothing worth keeping if compassion is treason," she fired back. The hall echoed with silence, and the kind that makes even eternity hold its breath. The eldest spoke again, softly. "Do you understand what this means, child? If you persist, you will lose your name, your line, your inheritance. You will be stripped of immortality itself." Elira smiled faintly, a smile made of sorrow and strength. "Then so be it. Immortality without meaning is just another kind of death." The light around her flared, bright, fierce, uncontainable. Her eyes glowed with violet fire, and for a heartbeat the entire chamber seemed to breathe with her. At that exact moment, across the galaxy, Elias's pod drifted near the debris fields of the old war zones. He replayed her voice in his head, the way she'd said his name as if it meant salvation. He was searching, scanning every frequency, every faint energy pulse that might lead him back, and then he heard it, her voice. Not through the comms, but through the faint trembling hum of the neural resonance between them. "Elias." He froze. "Elira." "They will take everything from me," her thought whispered, breaking like static and sorrow. "But they will never take what you showed me, what it means to feel human. Elira, I'm coming back." "No," she said softly. "You must live. That is how I win." Back in the hall, the council prepared the judgment sphere, a radiant construct of light that could strip a mind bare and rebuild it in obedience. Elira stepped toward it willingly. Her voice was calm as she spoke her final plea. "If my punishment teaches even one of you that empathy is not weakness, then I have not failed." The light engulfed her. For a moment, all the stars seemed to bow their heads, and far away, in the silence of space, Elias pressed his hand to the ship's window, eyes burning. "I will find you," he whispered, "even if it takes 1,000 suns." And somewhere in the heart of that endless light, her voice echoed faintly. "Why not me, human?" Years passed. The wars quieted. The Dominion changed, but one man did not. Captain Elias Rains, the last human envoy once bound to the Vialti. became a ghost among the trade routes. His hair turned silver, his hands carried scars like constellations, and every night he gazed at the same stretch of sky, searching. They called him the Wanderer of Lights. Some said he was chasing a dream. Others whispered he'd lost his mind to an alien's spell. But Elias knew better. He wasn't chasing a dream. He was chasing a promise. The galaxy spun on, civilizations rose and fell, and still he searched. Until one quiet evening, while his ship drifted near the forgotten moons of Vareth, his sensors detected something impossible. A signal, faint but familiar. A harmonic pulse in the same frequency as her. His heart nearly stopped. He traced the coordinates to a derelict Valthi station hidden within a nebula. It was ancient, silent, almost like a tomb. Elias docked and stepped into the stillness. Dust floated in the faint light of his suit lamp. Then he saw it, a crystalline chamber cracked with age, and within it, a figure suspended in translucent light. Elira. Her body seemed untouched by time, her hair like threads of silver dawn, her eyes closed as if dreaming. He reached out, his gloved fingers trembling. Elira. The chamber flickered and a faint glow pulsed from her chest, weak but real. A voice, her voice, echoed faintly through the chamber's dying speakers. If you are hearing this, human, then my choice was not in vain. Elias's breath caught. He knelt beside the glass, every memory flooding back. Her laughter, her defiance, her whisper. They took my crown, my name, and my body, but not my mind. I left a fragment of myself here, in stasis, waiting for one truth to be proven, that love is not bound by species nor silenced by time. He closed his eyes, tears sliding silently down his face. You proved it, Elira. You did. And if you are still alive, her voice continued, fading, then I ask one last thing. Don't grieve for me. Carry what we shared into your world. Let them know that compassion can change galaxies. The recording ended. The chamber dimmed. Elias sat there for a long time. A man who had fought empires and survived, now broken by the beauty of one lost voice. He placed his palm against the glass, whispering the same words he'd carried through years of silence. I never stopped looking for you. And then, for the faintest moment, her eyes opened. Not fully, not completely, just a flicker, like the spark of dawn breaking through the night. She looked at him, her lips parting with the faintest smile. Why not? Me human? She breathed, barely audible but enough. The chamber went still. The glow faded, and yet Elias felt something impossible, warmth in his chest, spreading through his veins. When he stepped out of the ruin, the nebula outside shimmered with light, brighter than before, as if the stars themselves remembered her name. He stood beneath them, whispering into the void. She wasn't a queen. She was a beginning. The story of Elira and Elias spread quietly through the colonies, told in cantinas, in temples, in classrooms where children looked to the stars. The alien who loved a human, the soldier who defied an empire, the two who reminded the galaxy what it meant to feel. And somewhere, in the hum of the cosmos, two frequencies met again, faint, eternal, intertwined, because love, as Elias learned, does not end when one voice fades. It becomes the silence that makes every star worth listening to.